Beans. They come in a nearly endless variety of flavors and types. Kidney beans, lentils, pinto beans, butter beans, black beans, great northern beans, and the list could go on and on. They're one of the most sought after foods in a prepper's pantry, along with rice. But which option, dry beans or canned beans, is the best option for you and your family? Hello, my name is Les, and I want to welcome you to the Chef Prepper channel. And in this video, we're going to compare the benefits of storing canned beans versus dry beans and figure out which is the best option for you and your family. There's a number of criteria that we're going to use to determine the best type, dry or canned. And as we go through the process, I'll try to keep a running tally on the screen. Criteria 1 that we're going to use, which might be the most important for some of us, is price. So we're going to compare the prices between the dry and the canned based upon the time that I shot this video. And the prices that I'm going to use are from Walmart. And at the time of shooting this video, 1 pound of dry pinto beans was $1.24. Yes, I know the bigger the package you get, the lower the price per pound. But to start with, 1 pound, $1.24. One regular size can of beans was 84 cents. So in a 1 pound bag of dry beans, there's 1,300 calories. So in order to get 1,300 calories in the canned beans, it would take 3.4 cans of beans to equal the number of calories in the 1 pound bag of dry beans, as each can has 385 calories. So 3.4 cans gives us 1,309 calories compared to 1,300 calories in a 1 pound bag. So price-wise, overall, $1.24 for the dry beans, $2.79 for the canned beans. Price goes to the dry. And if we went with 2 pounds of dry beans, then for the cans, we're talking about 7 cans. 2 pound bag, that's 2 1 pound bags, but if you got a 2 pound bag, that would be $1.98. The 7 cans of canned beans, the canned beans would be $5.74. So you get the picture, right? The bigger bag of dry beans you buy, the cheaper it is per pound, but the price of the canned beans stays the same unless you get them on sale. And just one more example, I don't have a 20 pound bag, but you can get 20 pound bags of dry beans, and at the current price, that would be $14.94. To get the equivalent number of calories from the cans would take 67 cans, and if I did my math right, that would be $57.94. So to get the equivalent number of calories in the can as a 20 pound dry bag or 20 pound bag of dry beans is almost 4 times the price. So when it comes to price, dry beans wins by a landslide. The second criteria, which of the two types will be the easiest to prepare to eat? These are going to have to be soaked for quite a while, probably overnight. Then they have to be cooked for a long time. And the longer you have them in storage, the longer both of those processes are going to take. This one, open the can, and it might even be a pop top, and heat it up. The ease of preparing the meal goes to the canned beans, by far. So if you guys are getting any benefit from this video, consider giving us a thumbs up. When the time comes that we have to depend upon our prepper pantries to eat, things like this might be going on outside, and if so, we might have to eat things right now, no preparation. If that were to be the case, would you prefer to eat these right out of the can or these right out of the bag? If you have to eat them right now, again, the canned beans win hands down. The next criteria that we're going to use is the cooking process. If you use these, again, you got to soak them, then you have to cook them for a very long time. These, on the other hand, is just heat and eat. When it comes to the cooking process, if you pressure cook, you can cut down the cooking time dramatically. So you might want to invest in a pressure cooker if you don't have one. And if most of your grid down SHTF type of cooking is going to be outdoors over fire, you don't want a pressure cooker that has plastic or rubber pieces on it. So that one is good to go over any kind of a campfire, propane stove, you name it. If you can heat it, then it will work. Our next criteria is going to go along with the cooking process, but if you are going to cook your beans, when you are using these, you can heat them on nearly any kind of a do-it-yourself stove using alternative type fuels that you might get at the Dollar Tree even, like we did in this video. You can use different types of stoves, of course, alcohol stoves, sterno stoves, do-it-yourself stoves like any of those in these videos. In other words, it's going to be pretty simple and pretty quick to cook or heat these. When it comes to the dry beans, you're not going to be able to use those simple do-it-yourself stoves that we had in so many videos. You're going to have some kind of a stove that you can have on for quite a long time, like butane stoves, propane stoves, campfires. It's going to be a lengthy process. So just the stove requirements between the two, when you do have to cook them, again, canned beans are going to be the winner. And still sticking with the cooking process, but another criteria, in addition to the stoves, is the fuel. If you're going to be cooking these, you're going to need quite a bit more fuel than if you're heating these. Longer cooking times means more fuel means more storage space, more fuel means more money to put the fuel into storage. So when it comes to the fuels or conserving fuels, the canned beans again win hands down. The next criteria that we're going to look at is time. In the kind of times that we're preparing for, time is going to be one of your most precious resources. So do you want to spend your time with these or these? Again, time is going to be a very precious resource. You may not have the time to monitor the stove and or the fire that you're using for the dry beans. There probably will be times that you can, maybe not always, but it will take you far less time to open one of those cans and heat it, or even eat it without heating, than it will take you to be able to eat these. So consider your time resources for when the time comes that you're prepping for. So the criteria of time requirement from getting hungry to eating the meal, again, goes to the canned beans. The next criteria we're going to look at is storage space. And when it comes to 3.5 or 4 cans of beans or a 1 pound bag, it's not a lot of difference in how much space that would take up in your storage areas. More than likely, you're not going to store a 1 pound bag unless you do it with a vacuum sealer, similar to what we did here. But when you start getting up into 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and even 50 pounds, you got to consider the amount of storage space that you're going to be using. So a 20 pound bag of beans, I don't have one, but about so long, about that tall, just for storing them before you properly store them. Compare that to what would be 67 cans of beans. Those cans of beans are going to take up a lot more space in your storage areas, which means you got to have a bigger storage area for the equivalent amount of calories. And that might also mean you got to invest more money in shelving, storage racks, or whatever it is that you're going to store those in. Just another thing to consider. But when it comes to storage space, dry beans are going to be the winner. The last two criteria that we're going to look at are both related to the actual work involved in preparing those to store. So criteria number 9 is the amount of work required to put those properly into storage. This one, you go to the store, you buy it, you bring it home, and you put it on the shelf. stored. This one, you got to have another container to put it in. A lot of folks use Mylar bags. You got to have the Mylar bags. You got to put those into a bucket if you're storing large amounts at a time. You got to deal with oxygen absorbers. When you're through using them, those that you don't use, you got to seal properly or you lose them. You then have to seal the Mylar bag if you're using Mylar and oxygen absorbers. Then you got to put them on the shelf or in the storage area. And what we did in that video with the rice will work exactly the same for the beans. It's just a longer process to properly prepare these to be stored than it is for the cans. So the work requirements for proper storage is going to go to the canned beans. And I know a lot of you are going to say it's not that much time, and it's not. It's not that much work. But if you store the dry beans properly, then even though the dry beans were cheaper to get compared to the canned beans, now you got some expenses in the storage materials. Mylar bags or mason jars or vacuum sealing bags, vacuum sealer, 5-gallon buckets or 2-gallon buckets or whatever it is you want. So you will be out more money to prepare the dry beans for storage than you will to prepare the canned beans for storage. So after going through all those 10 criteria, which one, dry or canned, is the best option? Well, there really isn't a best option. The best option is going to be related to you and your family and what your needs are and what you think your needs are going to be during the times when you will need to use whichever one of those you choose. So now let's go through the process of choosing which option we're going to use as a primary choice. So if overall cost is your top priority, it's going to be the dry beans. If overall ease of using them after you buy them is your top priority, it's going to be the cans. If buying fewer stoves and less fuel is your top priority, it's going to be the cans. If saving time and resources during an SHTF type of event is your top priority, it's going to be the cans. If saving time now is your top priority, cans are going to save you time in the overall process. If storage space is your top priority, it's going to be the dry beans. Now my question for you guys for this video, after going through the criteria that we did, what is your pick for the best option for storing beans in your prepper pantry? Canned beans or dry beans? And of course it can be both, and probably should be. So whatever your choice is, let us hear from you down in the comments below. And when you go down there to make your comment, don't forget to check the description box. All the videos that I mentioned and pointed out in this video, there's links to those videos down in the description box. And some of the items that I might have pointed out, there's also links to those in the description box. And you'll also find a link to our Amazon store. And we really want to invite you guys to check it out. Let us know what you think about it, and we'll try to make adjustments based upon what you guys say. And many of you know that putting dry beans into storage, you can keep them for a very, very long time. They may get a little bit tougher or harder, but you can keep them a long time. If you're concerned about how long you can keep the canned beans in your storage, in your prepper pantry, then check this video out.